Hey beauties. Hey beauties. Happy day, y'all. Happy day, y'all. Coming in with the check-in with the 1, 2, and the 3. Hey beauties. How are we doing, y'all? How are we doing? Happy day, beauties, y'all. We are starting off the week right, okay? Yeah, let me tell y'all something. I had an amazing weekend, y'all. I had a great weekend actually. So I want to say happy day to my beauties. Welcome to Dear Me, I Am Me live workshop. Listen, congratulations to everyone that is showing up tonight's live. Okay. Welcome back to another. I am your host, Sashiana. And if this is your first time in tonight's space, hey girl. How you doing, boo? Hey, beauty. We are so happy that you are here tonight and sharing your love with us. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead in the chat. We got it up for y'all. And introduce yourself in the chat so we can welcome all of you guys. Go ahead and drop some mirrors in the chat. Y'all already know we're going to be utilizing that mirror, okay? Because we are about opening up our diary and reflecting and being honest, right? Go ahead and let your girl know in the chat who you are. Where are you from? Y'all already know we are checking in from out of the ATL, out of Atlanta, showing up. You know what I'm saying? Happy Monday. Happy Monday, y'all. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Hold on, y'all. We are learning some new things when it comes to being on here, okay? We are learning some new things. Hold on. Going back to the live chat so I can make sure like I can see y'all, okay? I want to take this time and give a special shout out to the Dear Me, I Am Me community, okay, for joining us tonight in the private chat. I also have that up because I also want to see what's going on in our own chat. You know what I'm saying? I want to say thank y'all for also showing up, sharing this space with us, and also growing alongside us each week. I do see you guys in the chat. I want to say I am beyond grateful to have y'all in the Dear Me, I Am Me community. We are so grateful. We are so grateful. Without y'all, there wouldn't be no us. Okay. Like let's just keep it a buck. All right. So before we dive into tonight's live, okay, go ahead and grab your journal. Go ahead and grab your journal, sis. Yes, grab your journal. Grab your Dear Me, I Am Me worksheet. And you already know, bring your herbal tea. Go ahead and give you something to sip on. Okay, I have some spearmint and dandelion herbal tea with me right now. I have my candles lit tonight. Yeah, I have 2 candles lit for y'all tonight. Okay, let me go ahead and sip some real quick. Y'all, this tea is so good. Fresh spearmint and also dandelion herbal tea, fresh pick. I love fresh pick tea. You know what I'm saying? It just hits different than a tea that just been sitting on the shelves like for months. You know what I'm saying? I love this spearmint and dandelion tea. Okay. I also I'm gonna put it up in the description later on so you guys can see what we're sipping on tonight. Okay. So you can probably have it next week. You know what I'm saying? So again, tonight is not about being perfect. It's not about being perfect, okay? It's about being honest. It is about being honest. And sometimes that is the hardest conversation we will have all week, okay? That is the hardest conversation we'll have all week, and that is just being honest, okay? So before we dive any further, all right, beauties, I want y'all to pause. Y'all already know how we do. If you are new, we always do a mental health check-in on every Monday live. We also do a check-in on Wednesdays inside of our private group because you just never know what the next person is going through. And we need to make sure that our mental is A1. You know what I'm saying? So before we get into tonight's conversation, I want you to pause for a moment. All right. I want you to pause for a moment, sis. And I know we got some guys that's coming through as well. I looked at the analytics and I said, oh man, we got some guys that's in the chat as well. So also my brothers, before we get into tonight's conversation, I want you to pause for a second. Okay. I want you to pause. I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to let it out, release it. I want you to release it, release it, release it, okay? Now I want you to check in with yourself, okay? Not the version of yourself that you have shown with everyone else, okay? But you, okay? I want to really get down to the bottom and I really want to know, how are you doing today mentally? How are you doing mentally on a scale of 1 to 10? How are you doing mentally on a scale of 1 to 10? If y'all are open, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. You can put it in the chat. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and drop mine in the chat. All right. Y'all already know that we're gonna work together on this. I just put mine in the chat. I'm an 8 today, y'all. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good today, okay? What number would you give yourself today on a scale of 1 to 10? This is not about judgment. This is not about explaining. You know what I'm saying? This is just about honesty. This is about honesty. Drop it in the chat. How are you feeling today? Let us know. Let us know how you're feeling today. Let us know how are you feeling today in the chat. All right, go ahead and rate yourself. I'm gonna give you guys a little moment, okay? And also, for those that are already in the community, I know you guys also have your worksheets, right? So one thing that we did a little different on tonight's live is we uploaded some more worksheets to what we already had, right? And today we put the mental the mental check-in on our worksheet on for we can rate ourselves 1 to 10, and we can also, like I said, talk together on, like what's going on. When the questions are in front of us, it's a little different. You know what I'm saying? And just thinking off the top of your head, like you can actually write it down. You can actually come back to it. You can actually reflect on, the answers that you put down to the question. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? You feel me? Now, before we get into tonight's live, y'all already know that we gotta get into that disclaimer. You already know, boo. You already know that we got to get into this disclaimer before we go any further, okay? So let's go ahead and get into this disclaimer before we move into tonight's Dear Me, I Am Me workshop live, all right, y'all? All right. So the Dear Me, I Am Me program is designed to encourage self-reflection, personal awareness, and emotional growth through guided journaling and also intentional conversation. This program is intended for educational and inspirational purposes only. The information, prompts, and discussion shared within the Dear Me, I Am Me program are not intended to replace professional, medical, legal, or financial advice. Participation in this program does not establish a therapeutic or clinical relationship, okay? While many participants find journaling and self reflection supportive in their own personal growth journey, individuals' experiences may vary. If you are currently experiencing severe emotional distress, mental health challenges, or require professional support, we strongly encourage you to seek guidance from a licensed therapist, counselor, or qualified healthcare provider. Okay? By participating in the Dear Me, I Am Me program, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own well being, choices, and personal development throughout the program experience. Okay? The Dear Me, I Am Me program and its creator aim to provide a supportive and empowering environment, but results, breakthroughs, and outcomes will be different for each individual. So, y'all already know. So, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Remember what you are carrying. You do not have to carry it alone tonight. All right. Most importantly, be gentle with yourself. Let's go ahead and do this again. Take a deep breath, release. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's live, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's live. Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, you guys. All right. So if you were here, y'all, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited. Okay. If you were here last week, type gap. If you were here last week, type gap. If you were here last week, type gap. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to say this one more time. If you were here last week, type gap, y'all. And if this is your first Dear Me, I Am Me Love workshop, type new. So we can show some love to you, okay? Come on in, y'all. Come on in. Type new if this is your first Dear Me, I Am Me Live workshop, honey. Yes, yes, yes. So let me go ahead and get into it, okay, y'all? So last week, we talked about something that I think most of us have experienced before, right? We said that people aren't stuck because they don't know better, right? They're stuck because there's a gap, all right? G.A.P, gap. They don't know better because there's a gap, right? Between knowing and doing, right? If y'all was here last week, y'all already know where we're going with this, right? So knowing what needs to be changed, knowing what needs to be said, knowing what conversation you are avoiding, knowing what dreams you've been sitting on, okay? The knowing usually isn't, what did we say last week? The knowing is usually not the problem, right? The doing is. Y'all remember this, right? The doing is, right? And we ended with something I want us to carry into this week. Something that we can carry into this week, right? The gap, right? We're going to dive deeper into the gap, right? And I know some of y'all are like, what is the gap, right? The gap is get honest, act, persist, right? Let me say this one more time. Get honest, act, persist. All right. Get honest, act, persist. Okay. So I want to ask y'all something. I want to ask y'all a different question, real quick. A different question. What if before we close the gap, right? Before we close the gap, we have to understand the game we've been playing. You heard what I said? We have to understand the game we've been playing, right? Because once you understand the game, you stop blaming yourself for every setback, right? You beginning to recognize each patterns, right? We're talking about the habits, y'all. We're talking about the fear. We're talking about the comfort zones, right? We're talking about the stories that you started to believe for years after years, okay? Because awareness is powerful, right? If you understand what I'm saying, go ahead and put a mirror in the chat. Put a mirror in the chat. Put a mirror in the chat. Come on, come on, come on, y'all. Put a mirror in the chat. All right. All right. Because changes is everything. All right. So y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all ready for tonight? All right. Let me sip me some more tea real quick. All right, y'all. I told y'all we're gonna be diving deeper on each one of these lives, right? We're gonna be diving deeper on each one of these lives, and we are already claiming of how the in-person workshop is gonna be. Y'all already know. Listen, y'all already know. Okay, so if one thing y'all don't know about me is that when it's time to do things in person, listen, we're gonna do what we gotta do. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing but great vibes, great energy, and upliftment, encouragement, and just speaking life into the next person. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too much of that unnecessary BS society. We don't got time for that. We on some grown women time. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So get honest. Let's go ahead and get into get honest, okay? Get honest, the big G of gap. All right? Get honest. All right? So we're going to get honest, right? Not with the version of honesty that you give to everyone else, right? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about what you give to somebody else, right? I'm talking about the honesty that you give to yourself. Okay? The honesty you give to yourself, okay? Because you can't change what you refuse to acknowledge, right? You can't heal what you continue to keep hiding. Sis, let me tell you something. We're gonna go. We diving deeper into this, girl. We diving deeper. You can't heal what you keep continuing to hide, right? And you can't close the gap until you are willing to tell yourself the truth. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the first the first journal entry of tonight, okay? So when you hear the word get honest, when you hear the word get honest, what's the first word that comes to mind? What is the first word that comes to mind? All right. So I got my worksheet out tonight, right? So I wanted to be accountable with y'all. All right. I want to let y'all know that I'm not writing these questions down just for y'all. All right. I'm doing this just as well, right? So let's go back. What's the first word that comes to mind? All right. All right. Let's look in the chat and see what they said. Let's see what they said. They said truth, growth. All right. Somebody said honesty. All right. Destiny, I see you. I see you. All right. So let me tell you what I put. All right. So the one word that I put was okay. It might be two. All right. It might be two. So the one word that I put is divine truth. Right. I said divine truth because I am admitting my fears, right? My struggles. I am being vulnerable with you guys for one. This is something that I never done before, which is like open up my diary and then like put it out there into the world, right? So not just on live, but also on the podcast as well. When you go to Dear Me, I Am Me podcast, that is where Dear Me started from. It started from the podcast, and then now we're doing workshops, right? So, struggles, vulnerability, right? And letting go of a guarded heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is something that I pray on a lot, is not being so guarded, like putting that like behind me, because that is not who I am today, right? Right. So go ahead. If you are comfortable, you can write the first word that comes to mind, right? So like I said, mine was divine truth. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm gonna put divine truth in the chat. All right, let me go ahead and put this in the chat before I forget. All right, so if you are new coming in, the question was, we're talking about getting honest, right? So what is the first word that comes to mind when you're thinking about you being honest, right? So mine is not a one word, mine is a two word. I said divine truth. All right. So I want to put it in the chat so I could be accountable. And like you guys seen earlier, I also put it in our worksheet. If you are in the community, I know you guys already have the worksheet as well. So let me go ahead and put this in here before I forget. Okay. Before I move on, let me put this in there. All right, so I just put mine in there, okay? Y'all has mine in there. You can go ahead and add yours in there if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, put it in your journal so you can come back to that, right? Go ahead and put it in your journal. Go ahead and date it for tonight's live. So when you go until later on this week, or you come back, or when you come back on next Monday, you never know. Your answers might change. You know what I'm saying? Might evolve like over time, right? Right. All right. So now that we already dropped our questions in there, what's the first word that comes to mind? I think that uh what did you say? Let's see. Sacred. Oh, I like that. Sacred. Yes. Yes. What does that word sacred means to you? What does the word sacred means to you? So I think a lot of us confuse honesty with beating ourselves up, right? So if you are new to tonight's live, we're talking about the gap, right? The gap of we say get honest, act, and persist, right? And the gap came from our last Dear Me, I Am Me live. And now we're going into what does the gap mean to us? Um, so your first word that comes to mind is scared. All right. So write that word down for you. Scared, right? Now write down what am I scared of? We're gonna dive deeper into that, but this is for you. Okay. This is for you. What am I scared of? Right? You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to provide that to everybody else in the world because I know this can be a vulnerable topic. If you want to put it out there, you can. But this is a judgment free workshop live. And like I said, you're scared. Okay. Now write down what are you scared of in your journal. Okay. So I think that a lot of people confuse honesty with beating themselves up, right? They confuse honesty with beating themselves up, right? But that's not honesty when you're beating yourself up. That is self-criticism, right? Something that we spoke on, self-criticism, right? Because honesty, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Honesty doesn't sound like I'm a failure, right? It doesn't says I'm not enough, right? It's never let me get this right today, right? That's not honesty, right? That is shameful talking, right? Which we spoke on, right? That is shameful talking, right? Honesty sounds a little different, right? Honesty says, I have been avoiding this because you are admitting you are admitting how you're feeling, right? That is honesty, right? It says, I've been avoiding this, right? I have been making excuses for dot, right? It says, I have been settling for whatever you may be settling for. It can say, I've been afraid, right? And it can say exactly what you just said on here. I'm scared, right? That is honesty. That is honesty, right? Do y'all hear the difference, right? One attacks who you are, right? And the other one acknowledges what you have been doing and what you have been feeling, right? And guess what? Behavior can change. Behavior can change. Just think about yourself of who you used to be, because who you used to be is not the person that you are today, right? The behavior of who you were a long time ago has changed into this person you are, right? So behavior can change. But shame wants you to believe your identity can't, right? That you are supposed to be this person, right? And that's not completely true. That's not hold on, y'all. That's not completely true, right? And tonight, I think that tonight is the perfect time. We are leaving shame at the door. If you are by a door, look at the door. My door is on the right hand side. Look at the door, right? We are closing that door, right? We're gonna leave shame at the door. Close it, lock it, don't just leave it on the opposite side of that door. That's not who we are tonight, right? Right? So beauties, I have a question for y'all, right? And this is another journal moment for y'all, okay? Hold on, let me drink some tea. All right. Have you ever confused honesty with being hard on yourself? Have you ever confused honesty with being hard on yourself, right? Right. And then I want you to write this down. Write this down, okay? If I'm honest with myself, write this down. If I'm honest with myself, dot, dot, dot. If I'm honest with myself, dot, dot, dot. Now write whatever comes up. Write whatever comes up. All right. Because this is about no filters. This is about no judgment. This is about just truth. That's it. That's it. Right. We're not attracting filters, right? We're not attracting judgment, right? That is not who we are, right? If you are on this live, I know for a fact that you don't involve yourself with what I'm gonna keep it PG. You don't involve yourself with people that carry filters, and you don't classify yourself in being in a group of people that like to judge you, right? Because this is a judgment-free live, right? So write this. I'm gonna say it one more time, right? If I'm honest with myself, dot, 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 write whatever comes to mind, whatever comes to mind. Okay. We're going to take our time with this tonight. All right. We're going to take our time. All right. And now I want to get into the stories we tell ourselves, right? Can we talk about our story for a moment? You have a story, I have a story, right? Can we talk about stories for a moment, okay? Because every one of us have a story. Every last one of us have a story. Our stories might be different. Our experiences might be different. But the common denominator that we all have is what? A story, right? Right? And if you keep repeating the same story to yourself and to everyone else around you, then guess what? That story that you have been presenting to everyone else is going to start sounding like the truth. I remember when I used to keep telling, when I would meet somebody, right? They'll be like, here's an example. Do you have any homegirls, or do you have do you connect with females or anything like that or whatever? And because I was so hurt from from my past childhood um friend at the time, we grew up at a very young age together. Our families know each other. I was so hurt at that relationship. I distanced myself from every female around me. So I would be like, no, no, right? But if I kept telling myself this was my story, I wouldn't have the relationships that I have today with the wonderful women that's in my circle now, right? Right? So if you keep repeating the same story to yourself and everyone else around you, eventually it's going to start sounding like your story, right? It's going to start sounding like your truth, right? But feelings aren't always facts. Feelings aren't always facts, right? The way you may feel about a certain situation right now, that probably just happened right now, if you sit down and you think about it for a couple of hours and you let it meditate for a couple of days, guess what? When you actually sit down and you think about like what happened, that feeling that you had before is not going to be the feeling that you have now. So feelings aren't always facts, right? Sometimes we rehearse a story so many times where we mistaken it for our identity. And I feel as if like that's not the truth. All right, let's get some mirrors in the chat if y'all are understanding how I am feeling because I feel like I am going to zone out zone out in a minute. Like, let's get some mirrors in here, okay? Let's get some mirrors out here. Let's get some mirrors in the chat. Let's get some mirrors in the chat. Let's get some mirrors in the chat. All right, let's get some mirrors in the chat. All right. And that can be dangerous. That can be dangerous. All right. Because if you keep on believing the same thing, you'll never live beyond the story you decided to be truthful, right? Like I remember there was seasons where I kept telling myself, like I just need a little bit more time to start, more time to heal, more time to feel confident, right? But if we're being really honest, and if you want to talk about time, for one, there's no stopping when it comes to time. Time is going to continue to keep going. Time isn't our issue. Fear is. Fear is the issue. And maybe that story you keep telling the next person, it's time for you to let it go. It's time for you to let it go. We are living in the present, right? I tell myself all the time, like, I be dang. Like, I came so far to where I am today. And I reflect on the little things that, because so nobody is perfect, right? It's all about progress, right? I sometimes I get so caught up in today's world. I think that just because we're human, we feel as though like we're not moving, right? But sometimes I reflect on it. I'd be like, I remember when I didn't have this, but I have that now, right? I remember when I didn't have this, but I have that. I remember when I prayed on I wanted to have built a better relationship with this person because it wasn't the best. But guess what? Now we have a better bond, right? So, all right, we're going to go into our next journal prompt, all right? Our next journal prompt, all right? What is one story you've been telling yourself that you are ready to let go? Girl, what is the one story you've been telling yourself that you are ready to let go? Ready to let go. Now ask yourself, is this actually true or is it familiar? Is it true or is it familiar? I cannot wait until we have a Dare Me, I and Me live in person. This is going to be great. This is going to be great to see all the ladies come together. This is going to be great. We're going to go ahead and speak on this now, okay? We're going to go ahead. Yes, 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 yes. All right. Is it actually true or is it familiar? All right. So here's the part I really want y'all to catch. All right. Here's the part I really want us to catch. Okay. Um, Most people think that we are fighting, fighting certain circumstances, right? They believe that we are fighting certain circumstances, right? Right? But is it actually true? Right? Is it actually true? Right? Is it true that you're fighting a certain circumstance or not? Right? Or is it that you're fighting the story that you are willing to accept, right? For now, today, of coming a better person, right? Because every decision you make, it is connected to something that you believe about yourself. And like I said, you have become so far, right? You have become so far, right? It's remember I told you it's time to close shame at the door, right? Right. So if you believe you are not good enough, you're playing small. That was something I had to bite my tongue and I had to get with that. I said, Ty, you playing small. I had a conversation with myself in the mirror. I said, Ty, you playing small. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt as though like, like I wasn't equipped enough to um to speak on I'm gonna say I'm gonna put it like this. I felt as if like I wasn't equipped enough to encourage the next woman, right? I felt as though like I didn't have um the discipline enough, or I wasn't quite there yet to speak encouragement to the next woman. And then I had to sit here and I had to think and stuff or whatever. And I said, oh, that is a fear. That's fear that you're speaking about right there. Because I have been pouring into the next person all my freaking life. If I really want to be honest, this is something like I've been doing, right? But because I had speaking dyslexia, guess what that happened? Guess what happened? My self-esteem was low, right? So I felt as though like I wasn't good enough, even though I was pouring into next people, right? See, sometimes people can see your worth, but you don't see your worth. You don't see your worth, right? Like they see your potential, right? But because you feel as though like you're not good enough, you're playing small. And if you believe that you're failing, you'll never start. You will never begin, right? So what I'm saying to you, sis, is that like I'm not, I can't tell your story, right? You are the only person that can tell your story. You are the only person that can reinvent your story, right? Of today, right? Not of your past, of today, right? And if you continue to believe that you are playing small, you will never start and you will never become where you feel as though you need to be, right? And if you believe struggle is all you ever know, you will keep choosing struggle even when peace becomes available. And I know that's not who you are, because that is not what us women came into this world to be, right? We're already giving. We are already pouring and nurturing into the next person. So I know that it's not what we came into this world to be. It was never meant to play small. If we talking about get honest, we was never meant to play small. Small for who? Right? Because like your life move in direction of the story that you keep telling yourself, and that's the game. That's the game. That's why two people can experience the same situation but have different outcomes, right? One grows from it, the other one gets stuck. Not because one is stronger, but because their belief was different. Does that make sense? 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 Let your girl know if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. All right. Right. So before we ask God to change our circumstances, right, maybe we should start asking Him to change the story we have been believing, right? Because when your story changes, your decision changes. When your decision changes, your habits changes. When your habits changes, life begins to change. It begins to evolve. And that's why I always say small decisions create big transformations. Small decisions create big transformations. Big transformations. All right. And every transformation begins with one moment. One moment. And y'all know what that moment is? Honesty. 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 So I have another question that you can write down, all right? I have one more question that you guys can write down. No, actually this is not our last question. We have I think a couple more, I believe, after this. What's one decision you can make this week? Y'all already know I'm always asking a question like this. What is one decision you can make this week that your future self would thank you for? That your future self would thank you for. Because what you do today is either going to put you into position for your future or it's going to hold you back. Okay? All right. What is one decision you can make this week that your future self would thank you for? And if you want to, you can drop it in the chat. You can drop it in the chat. All right. All right. And here is one thing that I don't want y'all to miss tonight, right? What you acknowledge, you can address. What you ignore usually grows. All right. What you hide usually holds you hostage. Like I said, we are opening up this diary tonight, y'all. And there are going to be moments where we are going to be vulnerable. There are going to be moments when we're going to have to release us being guarded. We're going to have to release these fears. We're going to have to release this to struggles and stuff, right? What you hide usually holds you hostage, right? But the moment you keep telling yourself the truth, guess what happens? You take your own power back. You take your own power back, right? You take your own power back. And sis, that's freedom. Don't you want to take your power back? Don't you want to grow? Don't when you be in environments, you are very self-aware of what's going on? Don't you want your power? Don't you want to be free? That's freedom. All right. Because not everything around you suddenly changes at once, right? But something inside of you did. Something inside of you did, right? Right? Like I said, no pressure to be perfect. You just have to get honest, right? Now, before we close out tonight's conversation, I want to leave you guys with one last thought before we close off tonight's conversation. Honesty doesn't feel good. I don't care what nobody say. Honesty does not, it doesn't feel good, right? Sometimes it exposes the very thing that I feel like we keep trying not to see, right? But exposure isn't punishment, right? I think that is an invitation for us to be able to heal, right? Because if we're not honest with ourselves, um, how are we going to be truthful? How are we going to be able to be aligned and live in the purpose that we have been praying for, right? Because you can't heal a wound that you continue to keep on covering up, right? And it reminds me of a band-aid, right? It reminds me of a band-aid, right? Because eventually with a band-aid, guess what happens? When that band-aid is on a wound, guess what happens? You have to take off that band-aid, right? You have to remove it in order for that wound to be able to breathe, right? Right? And healing requires exposure, right? And you can't become the person you've been praying to be while protecting a version of yourself that you have already outgrown, sis. Right? Right? So I'm going to keep on repeating this until we lock this in. All right? One truth at a time. All right? One decision at a time, right? One day at a time. All right? All right? So, all right, I'm going to put this down for our final journal moment. All right? What is one truth that you're willing to stop running from this week? What is one truth that you are willing to stop running from this week? All right. Write it down, date it, commit to it. All right. Write it down, date it, commit to it. All right. Now, before we leave, I want you to look at what you wrote, right? I'm looking at what I wrote as well. I want you to look at what you wrote. All right. Don't judge what you wrote. Don't rush to fix it. Just honor it. Just honor it. That's all you have to do. Because honesty takes courage, and courage deserves to be acknowledged. And if nobody told you this today, if nobody told you to this, if nobody told you this today, I'm speaking to everyone. All right. If no one have told you this today, I am proud of you. I am proud of you because you are showing up, and that is what it's about. I am proud of you for choosing your truth over pretending, right? And like I said, don't judge it, don't rush to fix it, just honor it. Like it starts there, right? It starts there. Give me one moment, y'all. It starts there, okay? Because healing doesn't begin when your life becomes perfect, right? Healing begins when you're honest enough, when you're honest enough to grow. That is healing. Healing starts with honesty. I don't care what nobody says. Healing starts with honesty. That is something I'm telling you guys, this is because that is something that I just had to get right with myself. Like, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I really letting go of these burdens? Right? All right, you guys. So I want to say thank you guys for tuning in to Dear Me, I Am Me. workshop live. You guys, if you are catching the replay, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for the Dear Me, I Me community for also checking in. Thank you for, if you are new, for joining in on Dear Me, I Am Me live. I will see you guys on Wednesday inside the Dear Me, I Am Me community as we're going to dive deeper into each one of these questions that's on the worksheet that I'll have for you guys. Like I said, you guys can continue to add in each worksheet and stuff. And we're going to keep on having these conversations and also diving deeper into each one of these questions until we lock in on this, okay? Because mental health is at an all-time high. All right. So until next time, I want to say peace, love, and laughs. Thank you guys for joining tonight's live. See you guys on Wednesday.